So, do y'all identify as gay? And if you do, isn't gay gendered for men that are attracted to men? It is tricky. So I wanted to ask it.
I'm not gay. I identify as queer when it comes to sexuality, but I think that sexuality is like not directly correlated with non-binary. I feel like because you can be gay and be non-binary.
Oh, you think so?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, if you think about, like, Jack and Ruby Rabbit, like, Ruby Rabbit's a trans woman and Jack's non-binary, but they identify as a lesbian couple.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like...
Love it.
Yeah, it's like the spectrum of, like, the like, umbrella of non-binary is so huge that it's almost impossible for it to be limited to, like, this sexuality type is like, for this, it just doesn't work, you know.
Yeah, I think there's a big thing about it is that you have to, like, really separate gender and sexuality.
Yeah.
Like, even when before I knew that I was a trans male, when I identified as gender fluid or non-binary or whatever, I still, at that point in time, like, at the very beginning, I still identified as a lesbian, too. Like, I still went into queer spaces saying that I was a lesbian, even when I went by Sam at the beginning, even when I went by, you know, whatever the fuck pronouns, like, whatever people wanted to call me, like, I still saw myself as a lesbian because I saw them as different things. So I think it's, like, even though I am binary and I shouldn't be speaking, I think that everybody just, like, you get to choose. Like, if you're non-binary, if you don't identify with a gender, then cool, but you also still get to say what your sexuality is. So if you wanted to identify as a lesbian, then you have that right to identify as a lesbian. You know what I mean? Like, everybody has that right to choose what they want to identify as.
I think a lot of people just get confused because when we say we're non-binary, it means, for a lot of people, they interpret that as, like, being not male or not female. And then when you say you're gay, they go, oh, doesn't gay mean that you're a man who likes men or a woman who likes women? And maybe, yes, it does. But for me, and I'll be very frank about it, I just use the term gay because it's convenient for me, you know? For most people, when they look at me, what they're going to see is a man. And totally fine with that. You know, that's my reality and I'm used to it. So I just use gay because it has a utilitarian purpose and I can tell it's the easiest way for me to communicate, like, my body and somebody else's body and what we might do with each other behind closed doors. So
I feel like a lot of trans and non-binary people, though, have, like, just stopped using, like, gay and lesbian. I feel like most of us, I just say that we identify as queer.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've
also wondered if that's just because, like, most of us, like, because we all struggle with our gender identity, we've just, like, come to not care about our partner's gender identities. So, like,
it's getting to be less serious. Like,
Hearts are hearts.
Yeah. Exactly, hearts are hearts. Yeah, like, I feel like ever since, like, I started identifying as trans, like, I stopped caring about, like, what was in people's pants or what they identified as. I just started caring more about the people, and I became more open to trans people as I became more trans. Like, yeah. So I feel like all of us have, like, had, like, a sexuality change where we've all went from, like, one specific thing to just, like, a general thing. Like,
yeah,
queer.
because I started out identifying as a gay man. And here I am.
So when or how did you guys, like, figure out that you were non-binary?
Very carefully.
Very carefully. That's a good answer. A good answer.
No, I'm kidding. I don't really know. There was just a point where I just became, like, so much less concerned with identifying with anything when it came to gender. And not to be lazy, but, like, sometimes I want to go out with a more masculine type look, and sometimes I want to go out with a more feminine type look. Or I mean, even in day-to-day life. So.
Well, so, I mean, you guys both said that you don't really experience dysphoria, and you don't really experience, like, the feeling of being misgendered. So what really was, like, the tipping point of you guys really realizing that you were non-binary?
I remember one of my earliest memories when I was a kid was, and it's so bizarre, but I was washing my face in my bathroom. I had to have been like under the age of 5, and I like pat my face dry with my washcloth, and then like I had this like imagination, this vision of myself that I was gonna pull down the towel and I was gonna look in the mirror and I was gonna look like Pamela Anderson from Baywatch. And like that was what I like, and that was my self-image of myself. I don't know why, I just thought that. And so for a long time, you know, not as a child because I had no concept of what transgender meant, but more as I started to get older and realize what that was, part of me always wondered, like, oh, okay, maybe I'm transgender. It was something that I had thought about. And then as I started to get older and started to, you know, realize that the things that I've always wanted to do, and the reason why I thought it was transgender was because there were things that I wanted to do that I was told that I couldn't do because of my, you know, being assigned male at birth. But then I realized that for me, and this is just my personal like experience, but like going into, say, the other binary, being, you know, identifying as female and living my life that way, I feel like there were another handful of things that I really like about myself that people were going to tell me that I couldn't do and that didn't belong to me anymore. Yeah. And so that's why I decided to, well, I didn't decide, but that's why I feel that I fit somewhere in the non-binary, because I'm not really quite content with either or.
Right.
And yeah, eventually I stopped thinking of myself as Pamela Anderson, I guess. Yeah.
I can't really remember the exact point, but it was probably somewhere around like 19 to 20, 21.
Yeah, I would say so. I'm the same way as what Corin said, like, was just, I don't know, like gay male was just my kind of identity. And for the most part, if people ask, that's generally the answer I give. And the reason is I'm just lazy. And
it's okay. Again,
yeah,
you don't have to out yourself, you know, if you're just not in the mood. You know what? It's
well, and I think a lot of people just don't get it. And, you know, I think that it's important. Gender is how we relate to the world. And it's important to think about and know all about your gender and your identity and who you are. I think that's super important. But the God honest truth is most other people don't care. Like, and what that ends up happening for me is like me opening up and trying to tell somebody about, you know, my identity and who I am, and then realizing like, oh shit, this person literally doesn't give a fuck. Like, this is a grinder hookup and we're never gonna talk again. You know what I mean? So I just look at it, and if I do get close enough to somebody and we know each other very well, then they're gonna learn these things about me anyway.
Yeah.
But that's the way I function. I have a very close inner circle, and then everyone else. So
yeah. It's a big old happy family.
Yeah. So, last question. Do y'all have any advice or tips on how to be a non-binary ally?
Yeah. Respecting pronouns.
Asking pronouns.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a big one.
I think being open to your friends, like just being a good supportive friend who's open to hearing about people's different gender identities is a good trait to have. There's a lot of, I mean, you think there's a lot of rejection coming from all other sides. So if you can just be the one person to like just be an ear to listen,
Right, just shut your mouth and just listen to something you don't understand.
But Sam said earlier, like, oh, I know I'm not non-binary, so I know I shouldn't speak. But I really think that you should. Like, I think there's something important about hearing voices from outside of your community. And I think the only time it's a problem is that you're speaking over someone, but really I would like to hear more people talk about their experience in the non-binary or in the past. And I don't know, I like discussions and I like to hear people talk. And I think if you want to be a really good ally for any cause, is to participate in those discussions and to do it in a way that you're not talking over other people, but you're contributing to a discourse, and more people are learning information. The ideas are growing. The ideas don't become stagnant. Mm-hmm. The worst thing that you can do, I think, as an ally is
stay quiet.
Stay quiet. Yes, yeah. Absolutely. Go out and have a discussion. And
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that when I was saying it though, I wasn't like saying that I shouldn't speak for non-binary people. It's just like that I shouldn't speak about, like, I shouldn't like talk like I am a non-binary person if I don't identify that way. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
it's not my place to say this is what non-binary people want and this is what non-binary
Gotcha.
people feel.
Mm.
Like, I should say, hey, you should treat them this way because they deserve respect.
True.
But
Yeah.
I shouldn't say, oh, this is what all non-binary people want and expect. Like, because I don't know that. I'm not a non-binary person.
True. I mean,
Yeah.
even we're not binary people, and even we don't know that. I mean, everybody's experience is going to be different.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that also, like, just because a lot of the first few questions where David and I said, no, we don't particularly have that problem, it's important to remember that a lot of people do have those problems. They do,
Very true.
like, encounter those kinds of hurdles. So, yeah, I think it's just really important, too.
Yeah, I have non-binary friends who are very passionate about like their choice in pronoun, and if and using the wrong pronouns is going to cause them pain. You know what I mean?
Right.
So whereas that's not the case for us, it's like exactly like you said, it's going to be completely different for each person.
Definitely.
Well, and that's the importance, goes back to just like talking and having those conversations and knowing what people are comfortable with, because non-binary, and I said it earlier, but non-binary is a really loaded term. I mean, it could mean any number of things, and
Yeah.
it's a great way, I think, to find like-minded people and people that you maybe can share some common experiences with. But at the end of the day, like, it's a large group of incredibly diverse people with a very different outlook on gender and the way it affects them. So I don't know. I wish it were a little bit more simple than that, but it's not. It's a little non-binary, if you will. Cut that out. Cut that out.
Leave it!
So that's it with the questions. Is there anything else you want to just have in this video? Anything you have to say?
Come check out Hentai Show.
Yeah, come check out my show on March 4th at Swan Dive. Follow me on Instagram. You can find all of my links here. Edit that in.
So that wraps it up for our end episode, non-binary. Next week we are going to cover O, and it's going to be operations.
Yeah, so this is something that as trans people, like, it's generally the first question that we get asked. It's like, oh, you're trans, like, what kind of operations have you had? Or what kind of operations are you going to get? And all of that jazz. So we definitely wanted to do a video just where, we don't always want to answer those questions. So we're going to do it once and one time only, and you can check it out if you want to see it.
Yeah.
So we're going to cover, like, top surgery and bottom surgery and hysterectomies and all that stuff that you guys have been dying to know. So definitely check out next week's episode for sure.
Cool. And if you like this video, you know what to do. Like, comment, share, and definitely subscribe. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.